Let's look at Bobby Kennedy for just a moment and see how he talks and what he represents to see perhaps why they're so frightened of him.
When I was a kid, a typical pediatrician would see one case of diabetes in his entire career, juvenile diabetes. Today, 1 out of every 3 kids who walks through his door has either pre-diabetic or diabetic. Something's wrong. And nobody's saying, why is this happening? And we know why it's happening. It's high fructose corn syrup. And it's, glyphosate and neonicotinoids and atrazine and all the other crap that is in our food. We're not feeding people, we're poisoning them. This is a mental health issue, the depression, the anxiety, all of this stuff. The autoimmune diseases that our kids are now ubiquitous in that generation. Kids are not supposed to be sick like that. They're not supposed to be complaining of brain fog. They're not supposed to be on Adderall and albuterol inhalers and insulin and all this other stuff. That is not what children are supposed to look like. And they don't look like that anywhere else in the world. Only here. We have the highest chronic disease rate on earth, and we're being mass poisoned by our food. During COVID, we had 16% of the COVID deaths in the United States of America. We only have 4.2% of the world's population. We had the worst record of any country on earth. I don't know why people are getting awards for this, because whatever they did was wrong. But CDC says, well, the reason it's not our fault, it wasn't mismanagement of COVID, it's because we have the sickest people on earth in this country. The fattest people on earth, the sickest people on earth are here. And they said the average person, this is what CDC says, the average person who died from COVID had 3.8 chronic diseases. So they had diabetes, they had obesity, they had asthma, and they had one other thing, right? No, that's what killed them. It was the chronic disease that took them to the top of the cliff and put them over the side, and COVID just stepped on their fingers, and dropped them.
Isn't it strange that a government that's lobbied by Big Food and receives donations from Big Food is unwilling to talk about the points that Bobby Kennedy raised there? That COVID caused so much death, not because of even vaccines. It doesn't go near that subject, does it? Because it was a sick, unwell population anyway, because of a lack of exercise, poor diet, potentially poor medications. That the people that were dying of COVID, as we all know now, were elderly or sick or had comorbidities. Isn't it odd now that there seems to be a war on Andrew Huberman and Joe Rogan or anyone that's saying stuff like, why don't you get healthy and fit and stop eating this disgusting processed food that's giving you diabetes and cancer? Why don't the legacy media focus on that? Why are they calling Bobby Kennedy a conspiracy theorist? Well, because who pays their advertising? Big Pharma, Big Food. They're part of the same world, and where interests converge, you don't need conspiracy. Who told us that? The great George Carlin.
You don't need a formal conspiracy when interests converge. These people went to the same universities and fraternities. They're on the same boards of directors. They're in the same country clubs. They have like interests. They don't need to call a meeting. They know what's good for them.
So you better believe that Bobby Kennedy's a threat. You're a threat. Anyone that gives you a different outlet other than Joe Biden's a threat. Trump's a threat. You're a threat. I'm a threat. Social media's a threat. Bobby Kennedy is certainly a threat because he's up there not spouting conspiracy theories, but cold, hard facts about an America that keeps its population sick and stupid and fat, and the last thing it wants is you waking up and becoming a serious opponent of their cozy little two-party system.